Now, this is the story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down. And I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there, and I'll tell you how I became a prince in a town called Bel-Air. Yeah, you know the line and the lines that followed. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was a very special show for a lot of reasons, not the least of which was that it started the acting career of Will Smith in the best way possible, and it's endured to this day. And now it's getting a reimagining, one that'll debut this year. So allow us to show you Bel-Air details. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Number 8. It started with a trailer. So to start, we need to talk about the history that comes with this reimagining, because some might think that a network executive looked at the various shows that have returned and felt it was the Fresh Prince's turn, but that's not exactly the case here. In March 2019, cinematographer Morgan Cooper released a 4-minute trailer entitled Bel-Air, which reimagined the show as a drama set in today's world. Will Smith was one of the millions blown away by the YouTube video. A month later, Will and Morgan met up to discuss how the trailer came to be. More than a year later, Morgan is co-writing and executive producing the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reboot with showrunner Chris Collins. Will is also involved in the project as an executive producer, along with original series creators Andy and Susan Borowitz. This is important for various reasons, because it was a fan of the original show who helped inspire the take on the new show. And they not only have Will Smith on board, but the original creators of Fresh Prince to make sure the show honors what came before while also blazing a new path. And we do mean a new path, because the reason we've been calling it a reimagining is because of how the show is going to do different things than the original series did. Number 7. The synopsis. For proof of this, you need only look at the synopsis for the show. Set in modern-day America, Bel-Air is a serialized 1-hour dramatic analog of the 90s sitcom The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air that leans into the original premise. Will's complicated journey from the streets of West Philadelphia to the gated mansions of Bel-Air. This is what Peacock said in a press release. With a reimagined vision, Bel-Air will dive deeper into the inherent conflicts, emotions, and biases that were impossible to fully explore in a 30-minute sitcom format, while still delivering swagger and nods to the original show. Hopefully you can tell that there's a lot going on in that synopsis that you might have missed, including how it'll be a 1-hour show instead of a 30-minute one, and that they're going to dive deeper into the conflicts and prejudices that someone like Will, the character, would have faced upon arriving in Bel-Air. Because if the world has taught us anything over the last several years, if not decades, Will's life in Bel-Air would not have been comedic as he made it seem. Number 6. Racial conflicts. The original Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was first and foremost a comedy show. Yeah, they had drama in their episodes, but many times it was about Will and other characters getting into trouble and having to figure their way out of their said predicament. However, they did go and touch upon racism in their show before, including one powerful episode where Will and Carlton got arrested for driving a fancy car that belonged to a friend of Uncle Phil's that lent them said car. They were arrested by racist sheriffs who thought they stole it and refused to believe them even when the owner told them they weren't thieves. The only reason they were let go was because Uncle Phil, a judge if you recall, was threatening legal action. That was great. But many could have argued that they should have done more. And with Bel-Air, they appear to be doing that, because with them focusing on the conflicts that life for a man like Will would have gone through, it allows for a deeper connection to both the viewers and the world itself. Number 5. Black Lives Matter. 2020 proved a lot of things in the worst ways, and one of them is that racism is still alive and active in the world, and especially in the United States of America. The deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor inspired a lot of protests and political action because of the very clear racism that was being shown by the police officers. And the events of those protests showed the police attacking them despite being peaceful. This was yet another showing of clear systemic racism in the United States, especially when those same cops refused to hurt a riot started by angry white people who ransacked the Capitol in order to try and get Trump re-elected. And of course, politicians are now trying to do everything in their power to not prosecute those people because of their own ties to them. If you recall, one of the main cruxes of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is the divide between the lucky elite in regards to the Banks family and those who have been poor for most of their lives, like Will. Will, especially in this reboot, would have much more encounters with such people who think him lesser. So one should fully expect them to go and dive deep into the racial tensions of America and beyond, and use Will and other characters to go and show the various levels of racism that are out there and how they need to be dealt with. We're really going to peel back the layers of these iconic characters and explore this world in a really unforgettable way, Morgan said to Will. It's a show that's really going to surprise people in the best way. Which is honestly what they need to do in order to get people to watch, because the last thing that people want is another reboot. Number 4. Carlton weighs in. Alonzo Ribeiro was in many ways the breakout character on Fresh Prince outside of Will Smith. Carlton was everything you'd expect someone like him to be, and yet you couldn't help but love him. And Ribeiro has a lot to say about the upcoming reboot. I like to call it a reimagining. We sometimes throw a lot of things into one word, one concept. A reboot would be taking the actual show and characters and bringing it back. This is a totally different show. It's not even based on the show, it's based on the theme song. It's a completely different thing. It's drama. It's not comedy. I have nothing to do with it, so I don't really know anything more. But I actually appreciate it even more than a reboot. Let's take a concept and turn it into a different show. Others from the original cast have noted similar things, and as such, fans should be even more enticed to watch given that the OG cast and creators are on board. Number 3. Who will be in the show? The cast of the Bel-Air reboot is not known at present, and that's fine. But it does raise questions about the Banks family, who are not fully named in the synopsis, and whether they'll be like the OG cast. Given that this is more a dramatic reboot, it's entirely possible that they'll go and adapt things more to the modern world, including one of the characters, in this case one of the Banks kids, coming out as gay or of a different orientation than their parents think. Uncle Phil and Aunt Vivian will also likely be altered, perhaps to better suit the more dramatic needs of the show. The whole show is focused on being an evolution of the original and delving deeper into things, and that means that the Banks family has to be a deeper representation of their culture and surroundings than the family was in the original. Number 2. Cameos? This one is tricky, because when it comes to nostalgia, people want to be immersed in it in a certain way and not be beaten over the head with it. The Cobra Kai series on Netflix is a great example of this. It's a sequel series that honors the past while embracing the future. For Bel-Air, they could go and do things like bring in Will Smith and the other OG cast members to do small cameos and make their presence felt, but would that work in the context of this more serious show? That remains to be seen. Number 1. 2 seasons at least. Finally and arguably just as surprisingly, the Bel-Air reboot has already gotten not just a pickup on Peacock, but a second season order before season 1 has even aired. That doesn't happen very often, unless the people behind the show are really confident that the show will be a hit, which might be what happened when Will Smith came on board and said he wanted to do it. There's no release date for it at present, but it's expected to be released this year at some time. So what do you think? What do you think of this look at the upcoming Bel-Air series and how it's both going to honor the original while also telling its own story in its own way? Are you surprised that this show is getting the attention it is? Or that the original cast is supporting it so much? Will you watch it when it releases? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe and we'll see you next time on the channel.